Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia. Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And you're with us on our Monday Morning Matters, where we bring you interesting discussion and interviews in Southeast Asia. So today we are going to interview someone who is carrying out his dad's legacy. Who is that, Grace?
Well, he's pretty popular in the music industry, and despite his age,
Which is like 19, is it?
I don't know. You better ask him later.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him. He looks 19.
Yeah, but then he has a very experience in depth, and also he's very well known for a lot of things in music industry. He has contributed a lot.
Yeah. And of course, we are talking about Daniel Veerapen. He is a music producer and many more. Hey!
Hi.
How are
Thanks for
you?
being here.
Oh, great. We are just happy to have you here.
No. My pleasure.
So first of all, perhaps some brief introduction about yourself and what the work that you are doing.
Okay. Well, I'm a music producer, and that covers a lot of things: composing, arranging, music directing for things like theater, film, even sometimes commercials. But mostly, how I started was producing albums. Yeah. So I started composing and arranging, producing for artists when I was like 19 years old.
So you just
18.
fresh off the boat and then
Yeah. Well, of course I was doing.
go to the sea.
Doing a lot of music when I was growing up, and what happened was I just kind of like fell in love with just doing a lot more music. And I started composing and arranging for some of the local artists, I got my big break by producing for this album called Alamaya for Noreen Aziz. And that's the one that got nominated for AIM. Ever since then...
And how old were you?
That was when I was 18, so the AIM was 19.
Oh,
yeah.
So
and
now you are...
and I'm trying to not say my name because that was a long time ago. Exactly. So, but ever since then, I've just been composing for albums and artists. Some people like Vince Chong, Ash Nair, and everyone. I've been doing recently. I've been doing a lot more for with the advent of YouTubers coming up. I've been doing a lot more for the local YouTubers. Genie Boy, Joseph Jamani, everything. And ever since then, I've been taken into film scoring and doing stuff for films, music for films, which is really, really interesting. And more recently, I've been starting to do my own YouTube mashups.
Yeah, I saw that. It's very interesting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's my interest of late as well. That's not so much. That's my focus on artistry and music. Taking pop songs and all that, just mashing it up together. And I think that's something I'm going to be focusing on for a while. Yeah.
So since then, you never really aged, and you maintain at 19 years old.
You're really just trying to get my age out right now and saying it publicly. Well, okay, fine. I've aged several years. And then...
Well, it's really interesting to hear your history, your journey, how you have come up to this far. You've started your music when you were very, very young.
Yes.
And the direction that you chose until now, I'm sure there were challenges up and down, which we'll be discussing later on. But so far, what's your forte being a music director? Because your interest and your skills are so diverse.
Right.
Yeah. So, but then what's your forte?
You mean what's my preferred style of music?
Yeah.
That's a $1 million question, isn't it? Well, to be honest, I think the music that I want to end up playing, if that's a good enough answer, is probably
when
jazz.
You're old.
Yeah, when I'm old.
Like your dad.
Yeah, exactly. So I think because jazz is one of those styles that really to me is timeless and it never gets old. So I would love to end up just like, focusing on that towards my older age and just like keep on just progressing in that. Because I feel personally, I love a lot of styles. I love a lot of sounds, things from orchestration, classical to electronic and EDM and, to hip hop and R&B. So, and I love all those styles of music, but there's only so far you can go with each style.
Right.
Right. So to me, the music comes in the mood of the time. So, say if I'm, trying to relax, I like listening to probably like jazz. If I want to, if I'm in an epic moment, I'm probably listening to something classical film scorish.
Right.
If I'm, just partying with some friends, then, just gonna listen to some disco or house music, something like that. So, but each category has a sort of like, a deadline, if that makes sense. So it's
when you're of a certain age, it kind of fits you, but later on
Correct.
becomes old and tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the music and that kind of style doesn't really it's not so timeless. It goes by phases. You know what I mean?
Right.
But for me, that's why I say at the very end why I really love jazz is because something that I just keep on going back to, and just like it's like it's always an experimentation. It's always growing. You know what I mean? You can never really, I'm sure all those other musicians in other categories are like, this guy's so biased one.
Well, talking about jazz, a lot of people, especially musicians, right, when it comes to jazz, it's such that deep in music, and then it's endless. You just study and it goes deeper and deeper. And then jazz, a lot of people do say it's a mistake. So basically when you while you're performing on stage and you make a mistake, people just jokingly say, oh, it's a jazz.
Yeah.
It's sort of improvisation.
You can do that, but then it's also kind of like it's like also those actors who make mistakes on stage or who make mistakes in the movies. Those ones who just pull it off and go, and then it actually becomes part of the movie.
Yeah,
because they do it so well. You know how they know their craft inside out. They stay in character, as well as jazz musicians when they make those mistakes on live. They fill it up and make that mistake work and make it,
Exactly.
as well. So that's where the skill comes in. But because if you actually really make a mistake on stage and you go, oops.
I mean, that's obvious.
People will realize. That's exactly.
Don't worry, I wouldn't realize it. To me, music is music.
Someone stops halfway, then yeah.
But I wanna ask also more about the jazz, because when you talk about the younger generation, and of course you also have your own YouTube channel. A lot of your music, besides catering your own interests, you also cater to your listeners who are mostly the younger generation. Do you see a shift towards liking more jazz from your younger listeners? Or is it because to me jazz is a very foreign word to me. I would imagine a bar that is so dark, and then you see like a couple of musicians playing music that maybe for the younger generation it's like, what music is this?
Just like snapping the fingers.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a niche. You know what I mean? So.
But how would you define jazz to younger generation, first of all?
Right. So what I probably would do, and what I'm trying to do now as well, with my latest mashup, the one with Vince Chong and Nadia Akila, what I did was I incorporated some more advanced harmonies, more jazzy style chords, music, and slowly just seep it into the music. Now, what I've actually been doing, especially with like film scores and film for these YouTubers, because the YouTubers I'm working with cater to a very young audience, right? And so that's where I feel, okay, now is a good time to really experiment, get those music scores and music compositions to sound even more, incorporate some of those jazz feelings, those moods and those scapes of sound, and see where it goes from there. And slowly but surely, it's starting to actually become the norm in what they're hearing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm probably gonna try to do secretly, not tell
So
anybody.
you don't tell them just
Don't
jazz,
tell.
or not be like, nah, sorry.
Exactly. Just say, you know what? It's just music.
Yeah.
Because you know what? In the end of the day, it's just music. It's whether they like it or not. They don't actually really care what the influence is, as long as it sounds good. So a good thing to do is actually, if you want to try and experiment with a sound or a genre, a good thing to do is take a popular song that people know and then covering it in your own way. It makes it a lot accessible. You know what I mean?
So is it more like you will be reharmonizing chords and then changing here and there, add more elements, and rearranging the whole song?
Exactly that.
All right.
Because the last mashup I did was actually quite well received. People actually did like it, and they liked it because it was songs they knew, and they never thought they could hear it that way. And the way that they heard it was actually very R&B jazz influenced.
Actually, that makes sense, Arlene, here, because let's say Uptown Funk, it's a very overplayed song, and people hear the same styles over and over again via radio or TV commercials and wherever the platforms are. But if one or a few musicians come up with a different style, it's very fresh. And then it's like, oh, we can actually think of that style when it comes to Uptown Funk. Yeah.
Correct.
So I can sort of relate to what he's been telling us so far.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
On the subject of jazz as well, because now seems like everyone is into jazz.
Now,
only now. But when you talk about jazz, of course, we cannot help not talking about your father.
Of course.
Yeah. I actually read through extensively the history of how your father brought in, or not brought in, but revived jazz as part of the younger generation of his heydays. What inspires you the most about your father that you want to continue his legacy?
In terms of, say, his piano skills, I will definitely not be able to continue his legacy in that sense. I think, there are far better musicians, pianists who will definitely, be taking on the reins of, like, jazz pianists in Malaysia. In terms of legacy, I never actually thought of continuing his legacy, but continuing a legacy of some sort in terms of music contribution. My forte has always been production. So meaning composing, arranging music being the working the instruments, the orchestration and music. My forte has always been that. Composing, arranging, music directing and producing. Not so much in playing live, you know what I mean? So in terms of, say, I would ideally, I mean, it's idealistic, try to influence a music generation like he did. If I could do that, then I feel that maybe, I would have continued some sort of legacy. But that's probably not the goal here.
That's amazing. But we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on this.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back, this is Grace.
And of course, you are still with us on our Monday Morning Matters, where we chat about things that is happening in Southeast Asia. And this time we are focusing on Malaysia with a very young chap, Daniel Veerapen. And hey, we introduced you on the earlier segment. So this segment, we want to go straight to what you have been doing all along, which is right now you focus a lot on YouTube as part of your platform to share with the younger generation. I think maybe you can share with us what is the trend right now when it comes to current music that young people are listening.
Well, for a long time, especially the early, about a few years ago actually, from about a few years ago till now, people were listening to a lot of electronic influenced music. The pop music especially was just flooded with things like EDM, like Zed's music style, David Guetta, Calvin Harris, Skrillex, even dubstep, exactly. So it was, for a long time, it was very, very electronic influence. In fact, till now, it's still very electronic influence, but now they started using the electronic digital techniques of producing music, and they are infusing it with things like R&B and soul as well. So that's why you get a lot of like Chris
So there's
Brown
a lot
sound.
of mixture.
Yeah, the Weeknd sound as well, and even like Justin Bieber's current album. His recent album. Yeah, exactly.
What do you mean?
All of that electronic influence, R&B, soul music. Yep. It was, it's basically a technique that production they've been using since the rise of house music and everything.
So is that the direction that you also incorporate in your music when it comes to trying to attract younger generation to like more of your music?
Well, it really depends on who I'm producing for. If it's, say, I'm producing four very different artists right now, right? One's a Malay boy band, one's a Malay singer, one is a rapper come beatboxer, and one is an indie artist. Each of them have their very own unique styles. For the current singer, like Sean Lee, I'm doing a more electronic current pop sound because he's catering to a younger audience. For the boy band, I'm using a more ballad.
Wait,
Malay
we have
sound.
boy bands in Malaysia? I have to sound you there.
I think I'm gonna push it out to them. Push it out there. Okay, listen out for Back to Basics because they're the up and coming. They're doing really, really amazing stuff and they're coming up on the Malay charts as well. Putting it out there for them. Yeah. But you see what I mean. It really depends on who the artist is and who their demographics are.
Oh, that's interesting.
For sure. And then approaching different types of artists, how do you understand their music? I'm sure they have their own images they want to set.
Correct.
But then as a music director or producer, you may have a different images that you want to set up for them, or even the music direction that you may want to suggest.
Correct.
So how do you discuss or communicate with them?
Well, I guess it's all about first understanding who's in what position in this. So as a producer, I have probably much the final say on your direction.
Right.
Yeah, that's why you hire me as a producer in the first place. the funny thing is, a lot of these artists, right, they already have a general impression how they want to be like.
Exactly.
Because some of them, they want to be seen as a certain way, but they're not actually that. It's all in just, in their head, what perception of what they think they are.
Right.
But in terms of branding, marketing, and how they should be, that comes down to usually the record label or the producer's idea. Usually the record label, since they're the one who's marketing them, the producer has to make them sound like that, make them go into that style and genre. So it really depends, like I said, on the initial agreement on who has what role to fill.
Right.
Right. So usually, how it usually works is the artist will sign with the record label. The record label will decide your brand and style, and then the producer would follow through with that.
But you also need to know your market. Like, let's say you have a Malay boy band in Malaysia, of course, and then how would you market them? It depends on the audience, how they will be attract.
Correct.
It could be either a whole bunch of girls, or will it be targeting the Southeast Asia, or do you want to send to European countries? So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why you have to identify, first of all, your key demographic, who you want to actually market, who you want to target, and then start producing. I mean, you have to do a lot of research.
Yeah,
as well.
for sure.
Definitely a lot of research, and you have to stay in tune with what the current trends are everywhere. In terms of boy bands and girl bands, the leading ones in Asia are probably the Koreans.
Yeah, the K-pop.
The K-pop people, you know what I mean? So they're the ones, and they're doing a really, really crazy stuff. They're going nuts, and they're actually sounding really good. To be honest, I actually like a lot of K-pop style, a lot of K-pop sound, and because they're very adventurous with their style, you know what I mean? And they're not shy about a lot of things as well, if you know what I mean.
I will say they are very innovative
Yes.
when it comes to music industry. Definitely they do study all those demographic really properly, and then they know where to market them. For example, they have this JYP, one of the famous the company in Korea. He knows how to target. He started with Rain before Wonder Girls, and he sent Rain. He's a very hot Korean guy, by the way. So he sent him to America. That's how he made himself. From there, he opened a market in America. From there, he brought Wonder Girls there. So that's how the whole Korean K-wave started. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was very, responsible for a lot of the Korean K-pop booming scene, as well as the artists that he followed up with as well.
I only know Psy, sorry.
Yeah, size. Yeah, he's
Psy
also
took it
very
to the
smart
next
guy.
level.
Yeah, he took
Because
it to the next level.
What happened was, right, when he brought up Rain and Wonder Girls and everything, he brought them up singing English songs.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
That was not really the K-pop scene. But when Psy boomed, everyone was singing Korean.
Yeah.
And that's the real goal here.
And he made Gangnam very famous.
Exactly. I didn't know what Gangnam was actually before. I was like, what is Gangnam? It's apparently it's a street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a street. It's a very popular and upmarket street.
Right.
Yeah. And one thing I want to ask, this is from your fan, about what is trip hop? It seems like a genre that a lot of people are talking about, but I guess I'm not part of the special circle.
Special circle.
Let's hear what you need to say.
I don't know what it is.
What is trip hop? Well, trip hop is considered like a down tempo, chill type vibe. You got a lot of artists like Massive Attack. I think one of the most famous
I
track
love
is-
Massive Attacks.
You know the song Teardrop?
Yeah.
That's a very, very famous trip hop style track.
Ah.
Yeah,
So it's not really new. That
No,
means-
no. It's been around for a long time. I think, yeah, exactly. A lot of people like Enigma as well, I think, was a very famous trip hop artist. And what happened was it influenced a whole type of chill style vibe, and it's been carried on till today.
Right.
And you hear it in a lot of FKJ and all these kind of artists that are actually doing this kind of chill kind of vibe. They influence a lot of trip hop, like downbeat kind of very relaxed kind of thing. Exactly. That's what trip hop is, generally. I'm
So
not really an expert on that.
but do you see it being as a genre that is booming in Malaysia?
A genre booming in Malaysia? Probably not. Not a lot.
What kind of genre right now that a lot of Malaysian artists are gearing towards?
It's very varied.
Diverse.
It's diverse. Yes, sorry, that's the word. It's very diverse.
I mean,
because-
pop aside.
Yeah. A lot of Malaysian artists are just doing what their own thing. I mean, everyone's trying to cut a niche here in Malaysia. You see a lot, especially in the English artists and even the Malay artists and the Chinese artists. It's so diverse. Now that's a big problem as well in the Malaysian industry. We all like to say that the greatest thing about Malaysia is our diversity. It's also the biggest fallback in terms of our arts.
Very true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what happens is, right, in terms of like Indonesia, Thailand, Korea and everything, right, it's so united because everyone's singing one language.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's so easy to market there. But in terms of Malaysia, we're doing English, we're doing Malay, we're doing Chinese, we're doing all these things, right? And it's so diverse, and everyone is spread out into citing their own style of music. You know what I mean? So it becomes very, very segregated.
So it's actually really hard to become mainstream. That means everyone becomes an indie artist since they only can reach a very niche segment of population.
Correct. Yeah. The most popular style of music in Malaysia is the Malay. I mean, in terms of, say, just general views, you know what I mean? If you're just going to count views on YouTube, they're the ones who get millions and millions of views. You know what I mean?
That's true. But even Malays, you know, if you go to Sabah, Sarawak, or even the East Coast, they have their own groupies, you know, focusing on their own local bands and artists that we probably never heard of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so diverse, and I think until there is a way where everyone is not singing one language, but you know, maybe ideally singing Manglish, that would be quite funny. But yeah, I think until there's something like that, Malaysian industry probably won't boom as much as you know, the other industries.
I want to bring a trip-hop-ish vibe to our conversation. Let's put it chill down.
Trip-hop-ish?
Yeah, I just created a word. So I think it's really it will be only fair if we just give sort of different perspectives of our wonderful music composer here to our listeners. So let's just dig his lifestyle a bit. Right. So being a music director, it's not an easy journey so far. How's your life schedule? I want really know, how is the life schedule be like? Do you wake up really early in the morning to start your day and sleep really late, or are you like living in the London time zone that you you wake up late and you stay up really, really late?
Well, okay.
Which one you want us to choose, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, we can.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think it would probably be? What do you think it probably is? It probably is. Because in terms of even in any creative industry,
right?
You know, anything pretty much like freelance-ish. You've got to work with things like deadlines. Okay, and when you are your own boss, you're a freelancer.
Yep.
You kind of just do everything until you can meet that deadline. You know what I mean? So you could even, you know, just like be procrastinating the entire time.
Yeah,
until
for
it's
sure.
like 2 hours past the dinner, then you start cracking at it. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot to do with also inspiration. You know what I mean? You can't really force yourself to feel the music, but as long as you meet the deadline.
It's not like an engineer job or a lawyer.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, this is the textbooks. I'm just going to follow from A to Z.
That being said, I do try to keep a regular routine schedule. You know what I mean? Okay, constantly always going to the gym. At least, you know.
No wonder
getting
you
my
don't.
Social don't look back. Thank you.
There goes Arlene's comments again.
Okay, great. So I can maintain sort of a youthish look, I guess. Maintaining a social life, definitely, because you can get lost in your own time zone and lost in your own world trying to, you know, finish everything. So yeah, that's pretty much the kind of lifestyle of any freelancer. You know what I mean? Because I consider this like a creative job. It is definitely a creative job.
Is this your full-time job?
Oh yeah, definitely yes. Because I do stuff for not just albums and artists. Like I said, I do a lot of stuff for commercials and films, and even events and corporate clients. You know what I mean?
So you are actually the very few people in the music industry or even in the creative industry that are able to have a proper full-time job rather than having to juggle a full-time job and make this as a freelance job.
Yeah. I think...
how do you do it? How do you manage it?
Well, because for me, my strongest asset, like we talked about earlier, is my diversity. So what I managed to do is, what I really set out to do in the very beginning was, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be an artist. I'm going to be a producer. Now, there's a very big difference because when you're an artist, you're focusing on one style, one sound, and branding and marketing and everything. It can be especially in Malaysia, it can be very difficult to make a living out of that. If you ask all the artists around here, right, they will complain about things like gigs, payments and
For sure, yeah.
all these kind of things. What I wanted to do and what I set out to do was actually what my dad did and a lot of other producers did as well, which was to establish yourself as more than just in the artist scene and music industry scene, but also in the business world. You know what I mean? So you do things a lot for, commercials, there will always be commercials. Films, there will always be films. Corporate clients, there will always be corporate clients. And these kind of things are the ones where, in my personal opinion, they're the ones who pay the most as well. And that's how I kind of make a living. Even things like music directing for theater, the recent one we just did was In Your Face, which was really good. Even things like that, right? They come in seasons. So I pack out my entire year, right, with clients and production jobs and commercials which come and go. You know what I mean? But once you put your fingers in nearly every part of the music industry, you will definitely get a steady flow of income.
I mean, that's a part of the sustaining your
Correct.
career
Exactly.
and then steadily and consistently.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that. We'll take a break. Later on, we will discuss further on your personal life.
Cool.
Monday Morning Matters
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back, this is Grace.
And of course, you're still with us on our Monday Morning Matters with Daniel Veerapen.
Hello.
So, I want to continue discussion about your music or your music production work. One of it is music scores, and one of the music that I really like is Abyss.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So tell me more about it, because to me it's very rare for Malaysians or Malaysian producers to actually do music scores and actually be liked by a lot of people, especially on YouTube.
Right. Well, I guess it's kind of like because it's a very, like you just said, it's a very niche genre. So how that song came about was, first of all, I scored that and wrote the music to a specific video. So I already had a visual in mind, you know what I mean? And that's how scores and film scores actually work. Because you look at the video, you look at what the director has, and you come up with the music underneath there, right? Now, it was actually quite surprising because I didn't think that song was going to be so well received as it was. I wrote that initially just for a scene, one specific scene in a Genie Boy short called The Rose, right? It became actually quite a popular video, and that particular score was really, really well received. Now, it's not very often music score in any film gets very
Unless
well
it's Lord of
noticed.
the Rings.
Oh yeah, unless it's like a Hans Zimmer song or like a
Beautiful.
John
Yeah.
Williams style score. You
Oh,
remember
yeah.
all the John Williams stuff,
Yeah.
Harry Potter and everything.
Yep.
So especially in terms of a Malaysian production, it's not very common something like that happens. I guess it's because in that score I decided to try something that's quite different from normal film scoring. I included a lot of the orchestration, a lot of classical style movements and the strings and everything, but I added a sort of like a electronic backbeat to it, you know what I mean? Which gave it a more
Modern
twist
Yeah.
to it, and that was what I think was what made it very well received. Of course, especially the emotions that was going on inside the music, people just generally like that. Yeah. But I don't think actually it would have been that well received unless it was actually seen with the video, because if people just heard it on like a one-off thing, they might not be able to listen to the full emotions of it.
It's interesting that you mentioned, you explain about this. To me, I have always into films, film score, music score in films, because it sort of add depth to the music,
Right.
to the film itself. For example, when you watch films by, like for example, Lord of the Rings is
Yeah.
the only example I can think of. But yeah, to me, I would actually listen to it even after, I forget the whole movie scene itself, because the film, the score itself actually provide you some sort of emotion that is different from like certain music genre like pops and all that.
I guess how I always like to, especially when I'm talking to directors, the music score is the third unseen actor in any movie. Because if you watch a movie that has absolutely no music, you're gonna feel so awkward. there's a range of emotions and things that you just do not see. For example, right, two characters can be just looking and talking to each other like how we're doing right now, okay? Depending on what they're talking about, it may not even set the mood right. But once the music goes underneath there, right, it could be, if the music, say, was like a happy comedy tone, you know to take that scene lightly. But if the music was like an ominous, dark tone, you feel a sense that something is going to happen.
Yeah, like Interstellar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something, Interstellar.
That's amazing.
That song by Hans Zimmer became so popular that everyone was just listening, covering it. That,
Yeah,
you know,
it was
beyond
very
anything.
beautifully composed.
Oh, I love that song. Forgot what it was called, but something about walking the park. Hans Zimmer, greatest composer. But like what I was saying, what was I saying? Yeah, the music is kind of like a third actor. You know what I mean? It sets the mood before the scene that it's setting the mood even comes. You know what I mean? Two people can be talking right now in front of each other. You put an ominous tone under there, just like a low drone. You sense, okay, something's about to happen. You know what I mean? You take away that tone immediately and you put like some happy piano, and you know, okay, nothing's gonna happen. You're just gonna relax, have fun with the scene. You know what I mean? So it's the third unseen actor.
I have this question where when you compose songs for films or even commercials, you will have a creativity mind block.
Right.
How do you overcome that? Because you are a creative person, and then it's based on the emotions
With a lot
and
of pacing, coffee, and and walking around clueless, and you know, how do I overcome that? I guess, okay, it's
because you say you don't want to force yourself to come up with something forcefully, for sure. So when it comes to creating, like for example, the roast by the Genie Boy YouTube, and it made it quite very popular among younger generation in Malaysia. So with that, you must have had like sort of ups and downs.
Yeah. I remember actually the first thing that I put for that specific scene was not The Abyss. It was something else completely. It was something that was actually used in the very beginning of that short. And it completely didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jin and I sat down together and we're like,
no.
you know what, this just isn't working. It's not creating that emotional depth and everything. So it takes creative feedback as well between you and the director. You work really close with the director, first of all. But I guess how I overcame that was, you know, just trial and error. Any, you know, creative industry people would do. They just keep on doing and overcome the block. I know people have different techniques on overcoming writer's block. Some of them, you know, have rituals that they do. Or some of them just like, you know, go out and take a walk and just come back and, you know, thing. But a deadline is a deadline. You have to keep to it. If worse comes to worse, right, I do have a certain set of, you know, fail safes, you know, just like common things that I do to just get it by. But it won't get the best result.
So do you work better close to the deadline? You get all those adrenaline rush, and then you've produced the best work ever.
Crime is the best.
You know, what's it called? No inspiration. Was it no mood, like last minute panic or something like that? You know, it gets everything done.
Yeah.
I guess depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes when I'm really, really into it, and I've got, you know, you can get easily influenced by everything that's going on in your life. You know, even things like even relationship problems can even affect your work. You know, can completely change the mood of music. It's like the director goes, "Hey, I thought this was supposed to be a happy scene. Why does it sound so sad all of a sudden?"
That can happen.
So are you saying that you are in a relationship now?
No. Right now, I'm fully single. None of that. That's
single and available.
Which is good.
So you can make a lot of happy scores.
Exactly. It's gonna be all upbeat. No, what was I saying? I guess, yeah, a lot of things can influence your life, you know what I mean? So a lot of things can influence your sound as well,
right?
Your mood as well.
For sure.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I want to ask you about your music challenge, because in Malaysia, we interview quite a number of musicians, from singers, from people who are in the music industries, and of course, music industry, to survive in the music industry in Malaysia is not easy. And you being a music producer, what is the challenges that you face? Not necessarily on a day-to-day basis, but in a general overview of being a producer in Malaysia.
The challenge that I'm facing, is probably the biggest challenge would be, I guess, competition in Malaysia, because there's so many talented and so many great creative producers out there as well, and they all know who you are, you know, everything. We all have like a tight scene.
It's very concentrated,
exactly. So the challenges would be always trying to stay sharp, stay fresh, stay on top of what's current, what's trending, do a lot of your research. The challenges will probably also, get as much work out there because it's such a competitive industry. As soon as you start falling back, boom, you're out. You know what I mean? You have to keep on doing to keep being in this industry. Keep on, working with the right people. Keep on collaborating as well. And those are, I guess, it could be the funs and the ups and downs, but it's the biggest challenge in actually staying in the industry.
Do you try your best to collaborate with talented people outside of Malaysia rather than within?
I try not to because the industry that I want to be in is in Malaysia. I mean, especially Malaysia. I do collaborate with a lot of people in Singapore, especially some of the biggest YouTubers there as well. Night Owl Cinematic. But the thing is, my base of operation is Malaysia. I mean, so I guess the smartest thing to do would actually just be collaborating with the influencers here in Malaysia.
I guess that's the Malaysian pride here I'm having here.
The Malaysian pride. But with the arts and economic community, with the government now trying to push us to be regional, to have the regional mindset rather than the national mindset, do you see that your work would be able to go further than just Malaysia and Singapore? Because there are a lot of up and coming artists, musicians coming from all over Southeast Asia, and since there's a growing middle class population in this region.
Right. I guess, okay, in terms of do I see it? Would I want it to? Definitely. Who wouldn't want this stuff to go international?
For sure.
Do I see it? Well, okay. Especially on the YouTube videos, right? You can see it, like actually physically see it, because you get the statistics and you can see who view your stuff. There's this one remix I did, and it's on SoundCloud that I think went sort of semi-viral. Got like 100,000 views, and a lot of it were not Malaysians. You got people from the States, you got people from Indonesia, you got people from Europe, you got everything. So you can see, and that's the amazing thing about the current music industry today. You don't know who is from where anymore, especially the music that you get off, like say Spotify. They just give the music to you. You don't necessarily know where they're from, but you like it anyway. So I think my current playlist, I've got things from like Korea, Europe, Russia. I've got things from Indonesia and America. It doesn't really make sense to categorize where these things are from anymore. So, do I see it? Well, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
I actually do see it right now. But in terms of actually making it in another country and making it like, as a identity, that's going to take some work.
For sure. Have you ever felt challenged because of your age, being a young music producer in
Not
Malaysia?
by your dad, by the way.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Someone other than your dad.
Well, the challenge definitely is, of course, trying to live up to his name and what he's created. In terms of my age as a music producer, yeah, because
do they stereotype you? Usually, you're a young music director.
19-year-old guy.
Looks like 19-year-old, yes.
Definitely. I think, well, I'm not 19. I'm not claiming to be 19, first of all.
Okay, disclaimer, yes.
Yeah, I'm very into my 20s. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of challenges because a music producer is a job usually for seniors in the industry, you know what I mean? Usually people my age are the artists, those ones who are experimenting and trying to come up with their own style. So that being said, I've been very lucky to work with some of the leading people in the industry who have trusted me with their work.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that has set a bar in terms of what I can do as a music producer. Now people trust me because they've already seen my work. It was the initial breaking into the industry with your work and your quality.
Right.
That was the tricky part. You know what I mean? But once you've kind of like established like, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm strongest at, people started, okay, you can do it. Yeah. But now play the game. Climb your ladders, do the, what was it called? Pay your dues, you know what I mean? As well.
So it's safe to say that you have broken the barrier of people stereotyping you as, it's just a young buddy who does the music producing. Yeah.
I think I can say that, confidently.
Okay. I think, at the end of the day, moving forward to the next 5 years, what do you see yourself? Do you see yourself still producing music or doing something more?
Oh, I think
he may be singing.
Definitely not. That's definitely not my thing. I think now this channel will shut down. Okay.
Only in karaoke bars.
Singing K-pop. But anyway, yeah, I think what I would definitely be doing in the next 5 years, something that I'm actually working on right now is starting to put together probably my own record label. I think I already got my own production house, and I've got a whole bunch of talented singers who I'm producing for. But if I can actually put together a decent enough record label or a decent enough establishment for these artists, that's when I think the major I can do my best work.
Right.
You think? So probably, hopefully, I would like to kind of, influence a lot of the younger artists. I mean, become an influencer in the music industry, not just doing what the industry wants, but actually starting to make movements in the industry. I think that's ideal goal for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, and also get a girlfriend.
I think if time allows it.
Then once you in the relationship, we'll have a conduct different interviews. Then.
Yeah, we'll have a dating Q&A.
Sure, no problem.
Anyway, thanks for coming to Durian
Thanks for
Heat.
having me. It was a real pleasure.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.